Now we're going to work on the letter Q. A Q is very similar to a capital O. There's just one extra step. So we start towards the top of our X space. We push up into our header before pulling down and around to the bottom of the X space and going back up and around. So right now I've only used my header and my X space. The last step, I'm going to go to the bottom of my X space, do a little curve up before pulling down into my footer and around. That right there is a Q. I'm going to do that again. Start towards the top of my X space, push up into the header before pulling down to the bottom of my X, curving back up and around. And that's a capital O. To turn it into a Q, I go to the bottom of my X space, curve up before pulling down and out. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to start towards the top of my X space, push up into the header, pull down to the bottom of the X space before curving back up and around. Then I'm going to go to the bottom of my X space and make that little tail that turns it into a Q. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to start towards the top of my X space, push up into the header before pulling down the bottom of my X space, curving back up, pulling down again. Now I've made an O. Add the tail at the bottom of the X going into the footer to turn it into a Q. I'm going to do that one last time for you here. I'm going to start towards the top of my X space, push up, curve around at the top of the header, pull down to the bottom of the X before curving back up, pull down again to make that O, turn it into a Q with that tail that goes into the footer. That's a capital Q, and now we'll move on to a lowercase q, which is very, very, very similar to a lowercase g, but the tail at the bottom curves in the opposite direction. The Q is going to take up the X space and the footer. I'm going to start by making an entrance stroke from the bottom of the X up to the top of the X space. Then I'm going to move over a little bit, make an oval in that X space. Got a little too much ink here, I'm going to get rid of that. Then I'm going to do a tail down into the footer, but this time instead of curving it up to the left, I'm going to curve it up to the right and go back out. I'm going to do that again. Entrance stroke in the X space, move over and make an oval that goes over that entrance stroke. Start at the top of the X, pull down over that oval, into the footer, curve to the right, and move out. I'm going to do that again. Entrance stroke, make an oval over the entrance stroke, do the tail from the top of the X into the footer, curve to the right, and move out. I'll do that again. Entrance stroke in the X space, oval that goes over the entrance stroke, make a tail from the top of the X into the footer, curve to the right, and go out. I'll do that one last time. Entrance stroke in the X space, oval over the entrance stroke, tail into the footer, curve to the right, and end. Now you know the letter Q. Finish both capital and lowercase all the way across those lines, and then you can move on to the next video.